But as you, I think, pointed out, I'm a backbench MP. My influence is very limited. Much more important is the fact that any number of cabinet ministers seem to have threatened to resign earlier on. And in spite of the fact that the Conservative Party manifesto said that no deal was better than a bad deal, that we would leave the single market and the customs union and out of the jurisdiction of the ECJ, a number of ministers seem to have forgotten the platform on which they were elected, seem to want to abandon it, and I don't. I have consistently, and people within the European Research Group have consistently stuck to the manifesto on what we were elected and on the vote made by 17.4 million people. The point at which I wrote a letter of no confidence in the Prime Minister was when we knew that her withdrawal agreement was actually Brexit in name only and was not delivering on what had been promised. And I know you hinted at my being old-fashioned in your generous introduction, but I'm old-fashioned enough to think that politicians should stick to their promises, and I was worried that that wasn't happening. If we tried to stay, and we stayed beyond the European elections, I think there'd only be one winner from that, and that would be Tommy Robinson. And I think this country has been very fortunate in not having extremists in its political life. Almost throughout our history, we've avoided the very far left and the very far right. And I think that's been good for us as a nation. But I think if you decide that 17.4 million people voting is insignificant and should be overridden by 500 MPs, then you create the atmosphere for extremism. We're optimistic. We think the country can be great and can prosper. And you know, there are two types of politician. There are those who are in politics really to manage decline and think, poor old Blighty's never been going to be as good as she was in the past, and the best we can do is make the decline a little bit gentler. And there are other types of politician who think that there's a real opportunity for this country to thrive, to make its own way in the world, to turn Brexit into this phenomenal, enterprising success. And that's where the ERG is. And look, if 3 months delay is the price we have to pay to get out properly, and it's the 30th of June, and to get rid of this deal that we've currently got that is deeply unsatisfactory, well, 3 months in the history of our great nation is a mere bagatelle. We can live with that. So we are very optimistic, and we will make sure that Brexit succeeds. We have to unite the country, party, families, after this is all finished. But that means we've got to leave. That's what will lead to people coming back together. Why do I say that? Well, it's what people voted for, and I think the frustration of those who voted to leave, if it isn't delivered upon, will be very great. I think a second referendum would be the most divisive thing you could do. It would turn something that has split some communities into something that splits almost all communities, that people feel that they've had the vote, that it's been done. When you look at opinion polls, consistently 60 to 70% of people say that the results come in, it should be delivered. There's a relatively small number of die-hard Remainers who are desperate to overturn it. But once it is delivered, we need to get on with other routine political discussions. We need to be talking about housing. We need to be talking about education. We need to be talking about crime. Did you see that 34,000 thieves are going to be released from prison under some government scheme? That's an extraordinary number. And nobody's taken any notice because we're all discussing the intricacies of Article 4 of the withdrawal agreement, and I can practically quote Article 4 at you. But when these terrible things in terms of crime are happening, surely we need to get back to debating the domestic issues.